I mean, what if some of it comes out against it? And that guy said, you know, you don't know what kind of trouble you could get into.
That's for sure. Odinson is having some connectivity problems. Vito, would you like to ask Odinson's question?
You bet. Bill, this is Vito. And Odinson's question is, in your opinion, are GATA's supporters and followers more interested in it for personal investment reasons or for the civic mindedness of it?
Well, it's a good question. You know, when we first started in it, and we felt with the very bottom now, silver at 4 and gold at 250, 60, we were pounding the table that it was being kept down unnaturally. And of course, we eventually got involved because I was writing about gold, and you know, you're not going to have a business in it, and you're not going to make any money if it's not going to be a good thing for people to be in. Who wants to hear about it? And then you know, Chris Powell was is civic minded to begin with, got involved, and quite frankly, then it became what we do. I mean, what we do is take on the richest and most powerful people in the world, and we're out to expose the truth. And so it's a combination of making money, but also, you know, quite frankly, it's been the most fascinating, rewarding thing I've ever done. I mean, you know, we're going after Morgan, and we testified him against in front of the world in this this webcast that they had and the CFTC hearing, and you know, Goldman Sachs and the U.S. government, and I mean, and then the media, because they're complicit in this thing. People think we have a free press. It's a joke. We have a bought press. We don't have a free press. So it's fun to get to the truth. I'm going to be getting together some of the things I'm going to talk about in London, and one of the things I'm going to mention is that, you know, you look back and you sort of laugh when people thought the Earth was flat. The Earth was round. But I mean, so many people back then thought it was flat. Well, people think we have free markets here, free press. They don't even understand how much they're manipulated. And of course, this is all going to be known as years go by and down the road. Of course, we think it's going to lead to a disaster, and eventually this major scandal will see the light of day. But I have fun talking that, you know, we live on planet Gata versus most people live on planet Wall Street. And when you live on planet Gata, you view what's going on in the world and markets from a totally different perspective. I'll give you a very good example. Just a few weeks ago, out of nowhere, with oil sinking, they announced, the government announced, Obama announced that they were going to let oil go from in 60 days for this strategic petroleum reserve. And it's only done it twice before in history. Once was the Iraq War, and one was during Katrina. It's only supposed to be used in emergency. So immediately, and of course, gold and silver got killed, and oil went down a little bit, but mostly I was pounding the table, and I said, this is a farce. This has nothing to do with oil. Nothing. It has to do with the quantitative easing was ending, and they desperately need some more, but they can't do it some more with because unless they can come up, they said unless there's deflation, the economy's really falling apart. So they couldn't have commodity prices taking off, you know, with what gold and silver were doing. So they did whatever they could to smash it. And, of course, they had the gold cartel selling, and that brought in other selling and so on. And there's a proof of this because that was on 23rd of June, I believe. And they just had the announcement of the Fed meetings on June 21st and 22nd, which was just announced this week. And in that meeting, they said that they're going to contemplate some sort of quantitative easing if things are okay, if it allows them to do so. And it was the next morning that they had made this announcement about oil. These aren't coincidences. And so we knew when silver and gold went down like it did, it had nothing to do with the fundamentals, and we knew it wouldn't stay down there. And then they rated it again 2 weeks ago yesterday, and gold's gone up 10 days in a row. We knew that was bogus too. So when you live on planet God, it's very helpful to understand markets. I mean, whether it's the plunge protection team in the stock market when it comes back often late in the day after 3 o'clock, when they float rumors that disappear the next day. You already know what they're doing to manipulate the bond market by forcing interest rates down. And you just get an idea of what the way markets really are and not what you read about from the Muppets on CNBC and people like that.
Wow. Well, thank goodness the public has GATA, and I personally appreciate it. My question is illegal collusion, manipulation, Enron-like, scandal, fraud, clandestine, cartel, biggest fleecing of all time, lies, price fixing, fractional reserve practices. All these to me describe the actions taken by the BIS, the Bank for International Settlements, the U.S. Treasury, the Federal Reserve System, J.P. Morgan Chase, Barrick Gold, perhaps Goldman Sachs et al. Can you, for the first-time listener of this subject matter, although we've gone into it in some detail, just give a very quick nutshell description of what GATA is all about?
Well, GATA, first of all, is all about just what you mentioned, and you're right. I mean, Goldman, for example, Goldman Sachs was the ringleader years ago, and they disappeared in the gold market like about 2 years ago. Well, they were the ring. I don't know what happened, why, but they just left. But it are those people, and I mean, Barrick isn't involved in it anymore, but they were instrumental at the very bottom, working with the bullion banks and so on, and whatever they were trying to do down there failed. And as the market's, it's gone up now 11 years in a row. But we're just about exposing exactly what you said, and the more we dig into it, the more we learn how nefarious it is. And unfortunately, none of these things see the light of day until they blow up. I mean, what did Harry Markopoulos try to expose Madoff to the SEC for 10 years? He told them what was going on. They didn't do anything. The CFTC has an investigation into silver now for 3 years almost. Nothing. They have one good guy, Elliot Ness. Bart Chilton is a terrific guy, and he's trying so hard to do something, but he's against 4 others, so he can't get anything done. And, of course, Morgan is the Fed's bank, and Goldman Sachs is the Treasury's bank. I mean, you study it, it's very clear. And they have the inside information, so who knows how much money they make getting filters from that, from what official policy is going to be or what they're going to do in the markets and so on. That's the reason they're so close together. And, of course, there's a lot of people today talking about how the big banks have gained all this favor, when the bailout and when we had the crisis and financial crisis, and how the little guy's getting nothing and getting worse off in America while the big fat cat bankers are doing just fine again. I mean, the big joke is that they do something wrong, and like a Morgan, and I don't know, did something in the mortgages and got fined $35 million. What a joke. They should ban them from trading. I mean, really punish them. $35 million, it's not a rounding error for them. So we're just going to continue to expose this manipulation of the gold and silver markets. We can get into it later. I think the silver market's going to blow up. They've been short silver in conjunction with gold because gold's the really key to them, but you couldn't have silver go one way and gold the other. It would look too obvious, the capping, so they made a decision a long time ago to manipulate the silver market, and that's what our presentation in front of the CFTC was about, thanks to Andrew Maguire, the whistleblower, who, by the way, is going to be speaking at our conference for the first time in London on August 6th. So we're really excited about that because a lot of people, I guess, going to get into this later, wonder whether Andrew Maguire even exists, or whether we made him up or something like that. But that's a story into itself.
Well, that does bring up my next question. Andrew Maguire, as the public understands it, he was a whistleblower for the CFTC on the gold manipulation by J.P. Morgan. It was reported that he and his wife were hit by a hit-and-run driver at the time of his testimony. I've always thought that smelled like a rat. Maybe you could comment on that and tell us, have any of the GATA members been targets of physical harm or governmental agency audits or any other kind of harassment?
Well, first of all, I'll mention what happened to me about 9 years ago, and I'll get into Andrew. This could have been just a fluke, but within a 6-week period, my car was stolen. It was found the day after my insurance was paid on the highway right next to me with money in the front seat and my cashmere sweater in the back seat. Nothing wrong with the car. Then my website was hacked. It was never been hacked. I mean, I've actually had it hacked a tiny bit, but it was recently. But what came out there, the hacking, what made me look like a retard. I mean, it was in my worst days after going out on the town, I couldn't sound that bad. I had no idea. I didn't do it. And then at the end of that 6-week period, I was at a restaurant a block and a half from my home at about 11:30 at night, and I was coming home, and nice neighborhood, and I got hit with brass knuckles, and I thought I was out cold. So that could have been them, the bad guys, trying to scare me. I know nobody would fly with me for a long time. They thought the planes were going to get blown up. Or that was just a coincidence. I don't know. But nothing's happened to me before or since like it ever. Regarding Andrew Maguire, the story was he was feeding the CFTC information since November. Remember, the meeting was in March 25th of last year. And he was sending them emails and telling them what Morgan was going to do in advance. Because he got mad because Morgan, they would go to the bars and they would start drinking, and they have certain signals how they act in the markets and what they do. And they were talking about how they were ripping off the public. And he just got fed up with the whole thing. Remember, he's formerly a Goldman Sachs guy. This is no dummy. And so he thought the CFTC was going to have him make a presentation. Of course, they wouldn't let him. Even though he had emails and copies of them, which he gave us, which we presented. I said what they were going to do in advance. And he was pissed, so he got a hold of my colleague, Adrian Douglas, who's on our board of directors, and Adrian got a hold of me and was right like 2 days before, or the day before, and said, boy, have I got a bombshell. So I made my testimony, and, this, again, another coincidence. Remember how so many coincidences here, is that the only testimony that was blocked out TV-wise and sound-wise was mine. It was all-day hearings, 15 people. The only thing was blocked out was mine. As soon as I was done, it went back on again. Then we had it set up with Bart Chilton, a good guy. He was going to give me a softball question. I don't know if he knew that I was going to bring the McGuire thing in, but the chairman tried to cut it off after the first round. And Bart said, no, I got some more questions. So they went around some more, and they finally got to me, right near the end. And I had one long page to read about